fast, where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to roll-out facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, your source for honest and insightful stories from the dairy world. I'm your host. In today's episode, we explore the challenge of ethics and authenticity in dairy photography, uncovering the truth behind the images shaping our industry. Stay tuned for an eye-opening conversation.
Welcome back to the Bullvine Podcast, the show that digs deep into the topics that matter to dairy producers.
That's right. Today, we're tackling a really interesting feature article from the Bullvine that's got everyone talking. We're going to break it all down.
Absolutely. For this deep dive, we're plunging into an article titled Photography's Deception, The Crisis of Trust in Dairy Genetics. And I think what makes this piece so compelling, for me anyway, is that it's written by a photographer, someone from within the industry. You know, this isn't an outsider looking in and throwing stones. This is a real insider's perspective on what they see as a critical issue, something directly impacting all of us in the dairy world.
And our mission for this deep dive, it's pretty clear. We want to unpack the complexities of digital manipulation in dairy cattle photography. We really need to understand its profound implications, not just for the photographers, creating these images, but crucially for you, the breeders and the buyers out there who rely on them to make pretty significant decisions. Ultimately, we'll explore some potential paths forward because this is all about restoring and, maintaining integrity, especially in an industry where images influence really high-stakes financial commitments. It's about getting to the truth, the truth behind those images so you can actually trust what you're seeing.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The article kicks off with a really powerful statement from the photographer. It says, every photo tells a story, but what if it's a lie? I mean, that immediately sets the stage for a critical look at what we're actually seeing. So what exactly is this crisis of trust the author is highlighting? And what are the specific practices that raise a red flag for them?
Well, what's fascinating here is the distinction the author tries to draw right from the get-go between enhancement and deception.
Okay.
They acknowledge that modern software gets incredibly powerful. It can make images stunning, absolutely flawless, no question. But then they immediately raise that haunting question, which I think probably resonates with so many of us in the industry. When did we allow our tools to cross that line? The author, like you said, is a photographer themselves. They're speaking from deep firsthand experience. And you can feel a real sense of lament here, almost a sadness, as they observe how images have become almost too perfect.
Almost too perfect.
Yeah. That phrase itself, it hints that something's fundamentally off, right? Like a kind of digital uncanny valley where perfection just doesn't feel like reality anymore. It feels, constructed.
And it's those almost too perfect images that become the problem, because the author then gets into very specific examples. It's not just a vague feeling. They detail practices that are crossing that line. They even bring up another photographer, Brad Cullen, who has been willing to speak out. And the article quotes him directly saying, do we change backgrounds? Yes. Do we remove scars, smudge marks, dirt and blemishes? Yes. Do we fill in top lines? Yes, because putting cattle on a board can alter the natural shape of their spine. Now, this is where the author of our article draws a very clear line. While they respect Cullen's openness, they pinpoint specific edits that they believe are manipulative, that go beyond just, simple cleanup.
You're right. The author is incredibly precise about where they draw that line. For instance, when it comes to top lines, they quote Cullen, sure, but then immediately respond with their own very firm stance. They say, when you're digitally adding inches of hair to transform a weak-loined heifer into something that looks championship caliber,
right,
that is manipulating confirmation, and we need to call it what it is.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty strong statement because a strong top line, It isn't just cosmetic for a dairy cow, is it? It's crucial for her structure, her integrity.
Yeah.
It affects everything from how she moves to how long she lasts in the herd. So manipulating that in a photo means you might be unknowingly buying into a structural weakness, one that could impact your farm for years.
It truly is about more than just, well, looking good. And it's not just top lines either. The article mentions other specific things like enhancing contrast on udders to make veins pop out, or adjusting the shine to highlight rib structures. Now, for those of us who spend time around these animals, we know prominent veining, clear ribs, those are indicators of strong dairy character, good production potential.
Sure, classic signs.
But when these features are digitally exaggerated, or maybe even created, it presents an animal as having superior genetics that, well, they just aren't there in reality. And the author's internal conflict, you can really feel it here, can't you?
Definitely.
They explicitly say, this isn't coming from some outsider throwing stones. This is me grappling with a problem from within our own profession. They're not trying to shame individuals. They're addressing a systemic issue, one they're part of, which I think lends incredible credibility to their critique.
That internal conflict, it makes the article so powerful. It's coming from genuine concern, not malice or accusation. And it highlights that the line between artistry like making an animal look its best, maybe correcting for bad light or a weird angle, and outright deception, it can be really blurry.
Yeah.
Even with good intentions, the tools can just be pushed too far. The author actually hesitates to fully endorse any individual, even while commending Brad Cullen's willingness to openly discuss these practices, which they note is more than most are doing.
Right.
So this isn't about pointing fingers at specific photographers. It's about acknowledging a shared industry challenge where even well-intentioned actions can contribute to this larger problem of trust.
And you can feel that challenge directly, especially when the author shares that really powerful story, the anecdote about the unrecognizable animal.
Oh, yeah.
They talk about seeing an animal in the showing, in person, and then later seeing its highly manipulated photo and barely recognizing its top line. That experience, that kind of gut-wrenching disconnect, it forces a crucial question, doesn't it? Yeah. Are we marketing real genetics or showcasing digital artistry? For me, that's a key aha moment for you, our listener. Imagine that feeling. Seeing what you thought you were getting, only to realize the image was, well, a digital mirage. It's about that shock when what you see online or in a flyer just isn't the truth of the animal standing right there in the barn.
It perfectly encapsulates the crisis of trust, doesn't it? When your own eyes, your direct observation clashes so dramatically with the promotional picture. It just breeds deep suspicion.
Yeah.
And for you, the buyer, this translates directly into a lack of confidence in the industry's visual marketing.
Totally.
I mean, if you can't trust the images, how can you make informed decisions? Decisions about genetics that are going to impact your herd for years, maybe even generations. This initial deception, it isn't just a minor visual tweak. It directly hits your confidence, your peace of mind, and ultimately your financial investment. You might find yourself second-guessing every photo you see, right? Instinctively looking for signs it's been manipulated instead of focusing on the animal's real potential.
Which leads us perfectly into the next big point, the driving forces, the financial pressures behind all this. We've seen what manipulation looks like, but the real question is, why? What's driving this quiet crisis behind the camera lens? The article really digs into why this manipulation has become so prevalent. It's not just individuals making bad choices, right? It's about huge financial pressures within the industry. So how do these market forces actually contribute to this ethical blurring we're talking about?
Well, what's fascinating here is the clear cause and effect the author draws. They don't shy away from saying the stakes are impossibly high. And just think about it for a second. When someone's making, say, a $15,000 genetics purchase based on your photograph.
Yeah.
There's enormous pressure to make that animal look perfect. There's not a casual snapshot. These are critical financial decisions.
Yeah.
They can shape a farm's entire future.
Huge decision.
And it's not just individual sales. When AI companies are expecting these images to help sell semen globally, across continents, different cultures, the pressure to present an ideal, a flawless animal, it becomes immense. It's not just about a local sale anymore. It's a global marketplace where the visual appeal can literally make or break a multi-million-dollar deal. So the investment in marketing and photography, it becomes a competitive necessity. And that necessity, well, unfortunately, can start to overshadow the ethical side of things.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the article points out that these incredible stakes are actually pushing photographers and even breeders to rationalize these practices. It suggests that technology and market forces have kind of evolved faster than our professional ethics could keep up. It's not really about finding villains, but understanding this complex system where everyone's kind of caught in this web of pressure. So what kind of justifications do they use? How do they rationalize these practices?
Well, it's a classic example, isn't it? How a system can incentivize behavior that maybe in isolation you'd consider unethical. The author describes photographers they know and respect who feel pushed to enhance more than they're comfortable with.
Right. Why?
Because they're worried. Worried they'll lose clients to competitors who will create whatever idealized reality the client wants. It's almost like a race to the bottom, where those who fight hard to maintain standards, well, their work might look less impressive next to the heavily manipulated stuff.
Makes it hard to compete.
Exactly. Makes it harder for them to compete. Imagine the dilemma. You know what's right ethically, but if you don't play by these unwritten rules, your business suffers. It creates a really difficult situation for professionals who genuinely care about integrity, but also, need to earn a living, especially when the very perception of perfect has been so skewed by manipulation.
And what's really striking is that this isn't exactly a new conversation, is it?
No, not at all.
The Bullvine itself has documented these practices for, over a decade, through its Dairy Marketing Code of Conduct. The article reminds us that way back in 2013, photographers would quietly admit to adding hair to top lines or enhancing udder texture. But it was always followed by that familiar refrain, everyone's doing it, or if I don't do it, breeders won't call me anymore.
Yeah, that old excuse.
And the article points out rather depressingly that 12 years later, the profit motive continues to override ethical reform. That just shows you how deep-seated this problem is, how entrenched these practices have become, and how powerful those financial incentives really are in shaping industry norms.
It really does.
Makes you wonder what it will actually take for real change if a decade hasn't done it.
It highlights the stickiness of the problem, absolutely. And then you get into the internal justifications, the shifting line of self-deception that happens in the editing rooms. The author's incredibly honest here. They describe thoughts like, oh, this isn't really changing the animal, just correcting for the photography setup,
Yeah, right, minimizing it.
Or what's the harm in improving a top line digitally? It's not like we're changing her genetics. These are the mental gymnastics, right, that we all engage in sometimes when we're trying to rationalize something that feels a little off, trying to convince ourselves that a slight tweak isn't really a lie. But the author admits the line keeps moving, and suddenly you're creating an animal that exists only on screen. It's such a powerful admission of how these subtle, seemingly minor adjustments, all driven by these pervasive pressures, can lead to a completely fabricated image, one that has no true real-world counterpart.
And the real-world impact on you, the breeder, listening to this, it's just devastating. The article highlights the hardest part isn't the technology itself, but watching breeders make $50,000 breeding decisions based on images where the top line was digitally created.
Wow.
The udder attachment was enhanced, and the overall capacity was artificially inflated. Just think about that for a moment. You're making choices that will affect your herds for generations, impacting genetic progress, production, herd life, based on animals that, in that specific perfect form, they don't actually exist outside of a digital file. That's a profound betrayal of trust. And it means your carefully planned breeding program could be built on, an illusion.
It is, and it has massive long-term implications for the whole industry. And what's particularly worrying is the trend of training the next generation. The article states that young photographers entering our field are being trained to enhance a standard practice.
Oh, that's not good.
No. It normalizes the very behavior that's causing the crisis. It cements it as the expected way of doing business, not an ethical gray area. Meanwhile, you've got veteran photographers trying to maintain authentic standard, maybe taking immense pride in capturing the true essence of an animal.
Yeah.
And they find themselves losing work to those willing to create this digital perfection. It creates this self-perpetuating cycle of deception, where the pressure for photographic perfection just keeps overriding genuine representation.
So, okay, if these practices are so widespread, what's the ultimate cost to the industry? What are the ripples of this deception? The article uses that really striking phrase, when authentic looks wrong. What does that even mean for how we perceive dairy cattle images now? And what are the broader market implications when an entire industry starts to lose faith in its own marketing?
This raises such an important question. How has our collective perception actually been warped? The article suggests we've developed a kind of collective amnesia about what real cattle photography used to look like.
Collective amnesia, yeah.
We've become so accustomed to perfection, right? To that digitally enhanced, flawless image, that when we see an authentic photo, one that hasn't been heavily manipulated, it actually seems unprofessional or poorly executed.
Wow.
It's a profound shift, almost insidious in what we expect. We're literally being trained to see what's false as the ideal. And anything less than that artificial ideal could be subconsciously dismissed as just poor quality, which creates a huge challenge for anyone genuinely trying to market an animal honestly.
That's a truly insidious consequence, isn't it? It means that genuine, honest photography now has to fight against this artificially set standard. It's like we've collectively forgotten what a real, unretouched cow actually looks like in a professional photo.
Pretty much.
And this distortion, it traps the genetics companies themselves. The article points out they are caught in their own trap. They've trained customers, you included, to expect perfection in every single image, constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So now they can't step back without admitting they've been misleading buyers for years. And that's a massive hurdle for any company to overcome.
Right.
The difficulty, the potential hit to their reputation if they admit past transgressions. It's a very difficult position, but, well, it's one of their own making.
And the most significant, the most devastating consequence of all of this is the breakdown of trust. The author relays that heartbreaking observation. When experienced breeders tell me they pretty much ignore promotional photos entirely now, that's not just sad, it's a market failure that affects all of us.
Yeah, that hits hard.
Think about that. If the very people who rely on these images the most, the seasoned, experienced breeders, if they've lost all faith, then the industry has essentially broken trust in our own visual marketing. It's a fundamental collapse of a critical communication tool within the market. It leads to wasted marketing dollars, massive buyer skepticism, and ultimately it can even stifle innovation if producers aren't confident in what they're seeing.
It really highlights how pervasive the problem has become and the level of skepticism that buyers like you now have to operate under. And there's a stark, almost shocking indicator of this crisis: insurance policies.
Right, the insurance.
The article mentions that insurance companies are now offering genetics purchase protection policies, and what do these cover? Losses from misrepresented animals. This isn't just a casual observation, it's a clear market response, a reaction to a systemic problem. The fact that an entirely new type of insurance has popped up tells you everything you need to know about how common these disputes must be and the substantial financial risk for buyers like you who might unknowingly buy genetics based on a manipulated image.
It's a very tangible sign of distress, isn't it? If you are an experienced breeder listening, I imagine you found yourself in a similar position, instinctively distrusting promotional images. Maybe you're scrutinizing every angle, zooming way in, looking for inconsistencies, or maybe just dismissing them out of hand.
Yeah.
Perhaps you're relying more on word of mouth now, or traveling further to see animals in person, just because the visual marketing has become so unreliable. And this lack of trust, it has a direct chilling effect on your purchasing decisions. It could lead you to miss out on genuinely good genetics, simply because you can no longer tell truth from fiction in the marketing. It's a burden that really shouldn't fall squarely on the buyer.
But despite this, well, rather bleak picture, the article does offer a ray of hope. It looks at current technological solutions. And what's fascinating here is that the author points out that the technology exists to solve this problem completely.
Right.
So if that's the case, why aren't we using it? What's the disconnect?
Well, it's almost ironic, isn't it, the situation we're in? The author clearly states the technology exists to solve this problem completely. They point to AI-powered systems that can detect photo manipulation with, get this, over 95% accuracy.
Wow, 95%.
Think about that for a second. We have the tools to essentially police these images, to tell us with high certainty if they've been altered beyond acceptable norms. And beyond that, they mention blockchain verification, which can create tamper-proof records of image authenticity.
Okay, blockchain, like for crypto, sort of, but applied differently. Imagine a digital fingerprint for every photo, logged the moment it's taken, impossible to secretly alter later. So we're not talking about some futuristic fantasy here. These are real, proven technologies already in use in other industries. The obvious question then becomes, right, if the solution is sitting right there, why isn't the dairy industry embracing it? Okay, let's unpack that. The answer the article suggests seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it?
It does.
It's because admitting there's a problem would require acknowledging how much of our current marketing relies on enhanced imagery. That's a tough pill for an entire industry to swallow, especially when so much money, so much capital has been invested in marketing based on these very images. It implies a kind of collective denial, maybe. But what specific technologies could actually bring about this change? And what would it really take for the industry to adopt them?
Indeed. The article drives home the point that the barriers, they aren't technical, they're psychological, organizational. We're talking about AI detection that works by learning patterns in authentic images, right? And spotting the subtle, telltale digital fingerprints that appear when an image is manipulated. Think of it like a super detective, but for pixels.
Okay.
And blockchain, as I mentioned, it's not just for crypto. It's a distributed, unchangeable ledger. It can record the metadata of an image right at capture, creating this unchangeable audit trail. The author even provides external examples. The European Union already includes livestock marketing photos under authenticity requirements. They're essentially regulating what we're debating here.
Oh, interesting.
And blockchain verification is already being used in dairy supply chains for product authenticity, tracking milk from farm to table. So the technology is real and available. It's even familiar within our broader industry context. It's not some huge leap into the unknown. It's really just a step towards transparency.
So the tech is there. The need is clear. But the core reason for inaction, as you said, is this reluctance to acknowledge past misleading practices.
Yeah.
It's a difficult truth for many stakeholders to confront. But the author firmly believes that the companies and photographers who embrace authenticity first will eventually have a significant competitive advantage. Now, that's interesting. It's not just a moral plea. It's framed as a strategic one.
Exactly.
It's a call for proactive leadership. Don't wait until you're forced into change when customers finally get fed up and demand it. Imagine a genetics company marketing their animals with, like, a blockchain-verified seal of authenticity. That would build immediate trust, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And that brings us to the crucial point. What we're missing is industry leadership willing to prioritize long-term credibility over short-term profits. This isn't something one individual or one company can solve in isolation. It implies a deep need for a collective industry effort. It needs organizations, breeders, photographers, buyers, all coming together to establish new norms, new standards. It requires a unified decision to rebuild that trust, which has been eroded over, well, more than a decade now. True leadership here would involve setting industry-wide guidelines, maybe even a certification system that ensures transparency and penalizes overt manipulation, creating a level playing field for everyone committed to integrity.
And I think the author's personal stand, on all their tools highlighted in their author's note on technology and ethics is incredibly insightful here. They acknowledge using AI in their own writing and research, which might seem, contradictory to some critics, given this article's focus on authenticity in images. But they clarify that the principle is exactly the same. The morality isn't inherent in the software, but rather in the user's intent.
Yes.
And this provides such a powerful analogy for you, our listener, to grasp the broader ethical framework. It's not about demonizing a tool, but how it's actually used. How does that apply here?
It's a brilliant way to frame it, because it moves the conversation beyond just the tech itself. They explain that just as AI can be used to organize complex research, refine language, which is, an enhancement for clarity, for efficiency, it can also be used to generate fake facts or completely fabricated narratives.
Right, big difference.
Same applies to Photoshop. It can correct for harsh lighting, maybe present a more accurate, clearer image of an animal that was taken in suboptimal conditions. That's about accuracy, genuine representation.
Okay.
But it can also be used to construct a top line that doesn't exist naturally or add inches of hair where there are none. And that clearly is deception. So their core message, which I believe really should be the industry's commitment, is this. My commitment in every aspect of my work is to use technology to serve the truth, not to distort it. It's about leveraging technology for honest communication, not for creating illusions.
Exactly. It's about drawing that line, not against the tool itself, but against its misuse. For you, as a buyer or producer, just imagine the peace of mind if every image you saw was, say, blockchain verified as authentic, with a transparent history of its creation.
That would be huge.
You'd have confidence that what you're seeing is what you're truly getting. How could you demand this transparency from suppliers? How could you, as a collective, as buyers and producers, push for this crucial change? It's a powerful vision of what the industry could be if it chooses integrity over illusion. ensuring that the valuable genetics you're investing in are accurately represented from the very first glance. So after everything we've talked about today, if you're a farmer listening right now, what's the one thing you should take away? Or perhaps what are the few concrete steps you can consider?
Well, there are definitely several actionable insights we could pull from this deep dive. First and foremost, for you as a buyer, it really comes down to demanding transparency. Be critically aware of promotional photos. If you're making a significant genetics purchase, don't hesitate. Ask for raw, unedited images, maybe even unedited videos.
Good idea.
Understand that if an animal looks too perfect, if it seems like some flawless digital sculpture, that should be your immediate red flag. Question what you're seeing and push for more authentic representation. The second point is to support ethical practitioners. If you're a breeder, a photographer, any industry professional, actively advocate for and support those who commit to authentic representation. Seek out photographers who prioritize integrity in their work, even if their images might not have that airbrushed perfection. Your choices as a client, as a consumer, they can influence market behavior. Reward honesty, disincentivize deception. Third, engage with technology. Be aware of and push for the adoption of these verification technologies we talked about, like AI detection and blockchain for image authenticity in the dairy industry. The tools already exist, as we discussed. What's missing is the industry's willingness to implement them. Demand these standards from the companies you work with. Let your voice be heard in industry associations. The more people ask for it, the faster it's likely to become standard.
Right, power in numbers.
And finally, and maybe this is the most important one, prioritize long-term trust. Recognize that while there might be perceived short-term gains from manipulating images, the long-term health, the reputation, the credibility of the entire dairy genetics industry fundamentally depends on rebuilding trust. And this affects absolutely everyone in the chain, from the smallest farm to the largest AI company. The future of dairy genetics and the confidence with which you make your breeding decisions, it truly depends on the industry embracing this shift towards undeniable truth in its visual marketing.
Sick points.
And that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. For more articles and insights, be sure to visit www.thebullvine.com.
Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your deep dives. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Bullvine Podcast. We hope today's episode inspired you to value integrity in every picture of our dairy animals. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with fellow enthusiasts. For more information and show notes, visit bullvine.com. Until next time, keep promoting transparency and trust.